Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Learn Selenium using Visual Studio Code using C#. In the previous video, we learned how to write basic Selenium scripts using Visual Studio Code by installing basic Selenium packages and basic NUnit framework from C# and also other dependencies. We also installed NuGet package manager and a C# extensions in the Visual Studio Code so that it helps us to write our basic Selenium script. We then imported our packages and then we added a small main method and we marked this as a test. And in the test method we initialized the driver and invoked a browser with a valid URL, and we close the driver instance. In this class, I will help you to understand how we can use a couple of other NUnit notations to enhance the existing script. The two annotations are called OneTimeSetup and OneTimeTearDown. The setup and teardown are widely used in any of the tests. It could be Java test, it could be NUnit test. Any Selenium test will contain most of the time teardown as well as setup methods and annotations. So today we will learn how to use those two annotations, and which will help to set up our test and then execute the actual test. So let's start with adding our first method, which is called OneTimeSetup. So to do that, first we have to modify the existing test. So I will just make this as a normal method. Let's call this as main test 1. Since we modified the main method of the test class, we need to specify main method, which is an entry point for a C# class. So let's add a dummy main method, public static void main. So what this means is basically you are telling the C# compiler first go here so that it gets an entry to the test file, and then execute the rest of the code. So let's test this by just clicking the run test to make sure our script is still valid before we add our annotations. Let's click run test. Right, so we see the browser and it closed. That means our script is working now. So let's add our OneTimeSetup method. So generally, it's always a good practice to write the first OneTimeSetup before you execute any test. That's the main advantage or practice one should follow before they even consider writing the actual test. So to do that, first write our method, the OneTime method, public void setup. So this is our setup, but the way we need to tell to C# script is by adding the annotation of OneTimeSetup. That's it. So what this is, it will first execute this one before executing the tests. So the description is identifies a method that is called once to perform setup before initialize test runs. So please concentrate on this word. It only called once, and it is guaranteed to call once. So what we'll do is we just move our code, this code, to the setup method. That's because if you see the code here, this is all the initializing driver, opening a browser. It's all a setup. It's basically we are preparing our test bed before we execute the actual test. So I'll just move this code to our setup method. Okay, so now we moved the setup method. We moved our code to the setup method. So I'll just remove this code because this is a part of teardown. That's because anything which is executed after the test is considered to be part of a teardown. So now our setup method is done. So all we do is we are telling where is the Chrome driver, and using that Chrome driver, we are initializing the Chrome browser, and we are asking the driver to open this URL. There are other options where we can specify in the setup, like Chrome or Chrome driver options, Chrome options, where you can specify a number of options. Like if you want to open the browser in a maximum state, you can pass that argument. Or if you want to consider open the browser in incognito mode, you can pass those options to the Chrome driver options, and it will open that particular profile. So for now, we just concentrate on how to use a one-time setup and what is the purpose of that. So once we have one-time setup, now let's write our test. So in the test, we will just add a very simple basic assertion so that we can confirm that the assertion is happening and the code is reaching actually the test as well. So for that, what I will do is I will just read the title of the window. So let's do string win title equals to driver dot title, and that's it. So now the win title got the title of the window. Let's assert it. So if we use assert, let's compare the two title. So I would say this is Yahoo title, comma, the actual is the one which we have stored in win title variable title. That's it. So a simple assertion that we are comparing the title, whether we got the right title or not. So test is done. And finally, when the teardown comes into picture, so let's add a teardown method like public void teardown. Now, just because we name as a teardown doesn't mean that it will act as a teardown, so you need to specify the annotation. Then we will consider this as a teardown method, one time teardown. So in this teardown, generally it's a good practice to close the driver graciously. So let's call driver.close. All we're doing is just close the driver and close the browser, and once you finish the test. So close the current window, quitting the browser if it is the last window currently open. So yeah, so what it does is whatever the control is there in the latest window, we'll just close that browser. So just to summarize, we have one-time setup and one-time teardown. So in setup, we are invoking the browser and we are opening the exact URL. And in teardown, we are closing that browser. And in the actual test, we are just getting the window title, and then we are comparing with window title. Let's run the test to make sure that test is reaching this. The flow, the execution is coming into this type. So let me click run test. Right, the window has opened, means running the one-time teardown, and now the test has failed. So let's see why it has failed. So the outcome is failed. It is expecting Yahoo title, but actually Yahoo is now part of the visual media. That means the title is different. So what happened is, you see, we're expecting Yahoo title, but the actual window title is different, which is fair enough. We haven't specified the right title. That's the reason it has failed. So we need to modify this Yahoo title now. So let's copy this and paste it here. Yeah. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the assertions. It will print what is expected and what is actual, which will give you a clear idea why the test has failed. You can also click on this line. It will take you to the line where the test has failed. So now, as you can see, it has first opened the browser, and then it asserted the title, and then it closed the browser. Yes. So let's rerun our test, because we have modified the title, and this time we have put the correct Yahoo Windows title. So this time the test should pass. Let's rerun the test again. Run test. So now you can see it opens the browser, and it hits the Yahoo UK, and then it will close the browser. Oh, so now if you see, the test has passed. That's because the expected and actual are matching. So here we learned that we can use an assert or equal statement in a test condition. This is a test condition where you are asserting the Windows title. That's one thing. Another thing, so what we did is we used OneTimeSetup, we used OneTimeTearDown, and also we used assert class to confirm our test. So this way, anyone can use OneTimeSetup and OneTimeTearDown to initialize and close the driver or Windows instance. The most important thing to remember in this test is the OneTimeSetup is always executes only once, so if you see here, it's called only once. Similarly, the teardown is also called only once, because it says identify a method to be called once after all the child tests have run. So the description clearly says that it only runs once. So we also want the same thing. We want it to close only once, because we ran a whole test, and at the end we want to close the browser. Similarly, before we open the browser, we want to open the browser, and that's a part of the setup, not part of the test. So that's the reason we move our code to the OneTimeSetup. And finally, we use our assert statement, assert or equal, where it says you can compare the Windows title. And we saw that this time the window title matched and the test passed. So if you ever happen to write a basic Selenium script, always make sure to use OneTimeSetup and OneTimeTearDown before you write the test. In that way, it will look very clean, and the end user will understand that, okay, this is a setup method. Here we are invoking the browser and doing all our basic setup. And then in the teardown, you can also take a screenshot, and you can implement your own method in the teardown, just in case if test fails, take a screenshot. So any closing of business will be done in the OneTimeTearDown, and the test will contain the actual conditions and only the test steps and test conditions. Okay, hope you like this video. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to comment at the video, just below the video. Thank you for watching the video.